about today, and thank you very kindly for choosing us, and thank you for tuning in to Pan-African Television. This is the newspaper review segment here on the show where we delve deep into all the issues that we have tabled for our conversations. I have been joined in the studios by Honorable Enusa Fuseni, as well as Richard Asante. It's been a while, and Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr. I'm going to take you through the topics that we've tabled for our conversation before we get into the stories. So, EC to compile new voter register last week in June. Muntaka blows cover of Parliament. That was captured by the Chronicle newspaper. NIA has not registered 1 million persons in Ashanti. John Bwedu intimates, and that was captured by the Daily Dispatch. Also, the African story for today has to do with what is happening in Tanzania, where a comedian has been arrested for laughing at the president's oversized suits. So we're going to be... It's funny, right? The WhatsApp number is 0260846539. And let me also remind you that we are streaming live on Facebook, facebook.com/Pan-African Television. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/Pan-African Television. And on my personal Facebook page, Kwame Owusu Danso, you can also watch the morning show on there and leave your comments underneath the live stream. I will definitely be glad to read your opinions here on the morning show. Good morning to you, sirs, and thank you very much for your time. Let's start with the African story. Richard, it's been a while, so I want to start with you. Interesting times in Tanzania, where a Tanzanian comedian, Idris Sultan, has appeared at a magistrate's court this morning in the commercial capital, Dar es Salaam, 8 days after he was arrested. Sultan was expected to be charged with cyber crimes offenses, tampering with evidence, and using a SIM card registered in someone else's name, a police spokesperson told BBC on Monday. But once in court, the charge sheet only mentioned the SIM card issue. He was arrested on Tuesday last week after a video of him laughing at an old photograph of the president, John Magufuli, wearing an oversized suit went viral on social media. Police accused him of violating the Cyber Crimes Act and bullying the president, according to his lawyer, Benedict Ishabakaki. Many social media users have reshared the video with the hashtag Free Idris Sultan and set his photo as their profile picture in a show of solidarity. So this is what is happening in Tanzania. Richard.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I find it very weird to certain regard how some of our leaders in Africa sometimes would overstretch the arms of the law when indeed they want to deal with people that they think are not people who belong to the opinions that they share. I think that is rather unfortunate. I mean, the law is one thing, and also making sure that at least you promote some level of, I mean, at this moment, there's a lot of tension around the world, a lot of confusion around the world. People are going through all kinds of difficulties. So if for a moment somebody chance on something that could sort of help, at least ease out the tension in all of us. I mean, everybody's laughing because the thought of arresting somebody because the person laughed at. I mean, is the president not excited about his past and how? I mean, it's just about having a humble beginning. All of us have passed where if you are even supposed to see the kind of life that we've gone through, but those are supposed to shape the current generation. That regardless of where you find yourself, if you're able to put your act together and also work extremely well, you'll be able to position yourself and become a president. And if I'm a president and such a thing happens to me, it is all joy that indeed there ought to be a glory given to God, because this is where I started. This is my humble beginning, and this is what I've gone through. And all of us have stories to tell about our lives. So if for a moment you got in there and such a thing happens, and I don't think that overstretching it. And like I said, if the law want to catch up with anybody within any society, nobody can be free. If you want to hold on to every trivial thing that happens around, then you would literally jail the entire population, because somebody might have said something that cannot be justified. Somebody might have done something. And all these things could happen. But I would want to say that I've been in Tanzania. I spent a couple of days there and then did some few things out there. I think that he's doing well to a certain extent. But when it comes to his records, the way he treats his supporters, people who do not share in his dream and his ambition, I think it's really something that he has to look at. I mean, that is not enough. I'm sure that in this modern age, there are a lot of things that confront the people. For somebody to say that he was bullying the president, I mean, Christ me. A private citizen, a comedian. I mean, look at the guy's job. What do you expect him to do? Comedians make fun of everybody. They make fun even themselves, their own parents. They laugh at everybody. They need the material that will create that atmosphere for people to ease up the kind of stress they go through. And for a lawyer to say that the person was bullying the president, I mean, how do you bully a president? I mean, with what? Because of the video, because of the fact that people got excited about it and all that. I mean, these things, I do believe that going forward, I mean, African leaders would move away from some of these things. So at least they'll focus on the serious issues. What they are real serious issues confronting the continent. I mean, people still think that the differences that we have as people ought to be the very thing that we will continuously need to fight over. But those are not the issues. The things that we need to fight over ought to be corruption, poverty, lack of various infrastructure, amenities, lack of the various things that people need to have their survival, unemployment difficulties. These are the things that ought to be the enemies that confront all of us. And we should have a shared enemies so we can fight it. But then if you go beyond those things and overlook them and you start chasing trivial matters, I think that is not really good. And I hope and pray that this man will be given his freedom and the president will see there's lighter and there's a softer side of life and let this thing go.
Thank you very much, Richard Asante. Honorable Inusa Fuseni.
Well, Richard, let me welcome you back to the set.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
And to greet my brother, Kwesi Pratt, and extend my regards to you, KOD.
Thank you.
Once again, we are back here on Thursday. We are here because you have provided us with a platform to exercise one of the fundamental rights that we have as human beings. The right to freedom of speech and the right to freedom of expression. These rights are so important that they have been held to be only second to the right to life. Because you must exist, you must live before you can even exercise the right to speech. They are inherent rights. And so, the way you choose to dress is a right of freedom of expression insofar as your dress and the way you dress does not violate a laid down law which prohibits or bans such dressing. You can say what you want to say insofar as what you have said is not infringing any laid down law or rule which has been criminalized. So, in fact, ordinarily, people say that your right to freedom of speech ends at the other person's nose, because we appreciate the right as a right founded in civil law. And so when you infringe somebody's right to dignity, it takes you to court. It vindicates that right to dignity because of what you have said. Now also, Tanzania is a democratic country. Magufuli got elected because he contested elections by the laws of Tanzania. The Tanzania Constitution appreciates and recognizes the right to freedom of expression. Since time immemorial, comedians have been known to provide a very good avenue, outlet, where people can distress. They have been known to provide a condition for experiencing some happiness by turning things within society into jokes. But who told Magafuli to wear an oversized coat? He doesn't know his size. Even if you wear an oversized coat,
So what?
and there is no comedian in your house, your children and wife will laugh at you because your coat is oversized. Is that not so? It's natural. Richard, is that not so? It's natural. Why will you arrest a comedian for laughing? Who would have known how many people laughed at him before the comedian? You see, power should be used responsibly. And Magafuli must know that it is the people of Tanzania who voted him into office, and that he's accountable to the people. And accountability also includes his oath of office to uphold the constitutions and the laws of the state. In fact, as a practicing lawyer, the courts have always held that where there is a conflict between the protection of fundamental rights to freedom of speech and the perceived violation of that fundamental right, the court will always resolve the matter in favor of the fundamental right to freedom of expression. Because it's a right that even manifests itself in voting.
Inalienable.
Is it? It cannot be given to anybody. It attaches to you. So I don't think that is proper. I don't think that is fair. I don't think that Magafuli should have exercised that option. And if the comedian is still in jail, they should release him. And I believe, without even being in Tanzania, that many people
Result of the recklessness and ignorance of their president. And I'm very deeply worried about that. What we are discussing is a case of the president wearing oversized suits. And if you see the president, his demeanor, his courage, and so on, I think he will look extremely funny in an oversized suit. You understand? And he doesn't want people to laugh. Now, if you don't want people to laugh, don't make yourself funny. If you make yourself funny, people will laugh. Look, all over the world, look at the United States of America, where a sculptor actually made a nude sculpture of the president and placed it in a public park. Nothing happened to him. We are laughing at ourselves, we laugh at ourselves, we laugh at our presidents and so on, all the time. But Magafuli would not have it. He would actually prosecute a comedian, not a comedian, for laughing at his oversized suit. Who told him to go and wear the oversized suit? You know, I tell you a story. I mean, I do WhatsApp a little bit, you know. And over the weekend, I sent a WhatsApp of an old photograph of the Ghanaian president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to a friend of mine in the UK. And immediately the person sent something back and said, hey, so the president had hair. You understand? And we all laughed about it. I don't see how in Ghana anybody can go to court for laughing at the president's hair. It won't happen. I mean, how would it happen in Ghana? That somebody is angry or somebody will beat you or insult you because you poke a joke at the president. Why? Presidents are public figures, and it goes with so many things, including laughing at the oversized shirts and suits. So if presidents don't want us to laugh at the oversized suits, they should stop wearing oversized suits. Simple. Magafuli is becoming a huge problem, you know, and I think that it's important that all those who respect, you know, fundamental rights, all those who want to see an Africa which is built on democracy and so on, should speak out against this African president who is returning us to the era of the jungle. Magafuli is returning the whole of Africa to the era of the jungle, and he should be stopped. People should speak out. You understand? What kind of president is this one? In any case, look, he is one president who makes it very, very clear that outcomes of elections have consequences. Very clear.
Yeah, very clear.
He
Yes.
makes it very clear. The people of Tanzania, with their eyes open, their ears open, their senses working, went and voted for this president. What they are suffering now are consequences of their own actions. So people should learn to understand that elections have consequences. When you get to the polling station and you're putting your ballot into the box, be reminded that your action can have and will have consequences like what Magafuli is doing in Tanzania.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. The WhatsApp number is still active, 0260846539, 0260846539. We're also streaming live on Facebook, facebook.com/Pan-African Television. We're coming back home now to discuss some of the very fundamental issues that we are facing currently relative to our elections. And I would like to start with Honorable Enusa Fuseni, owing to a number of factors. One, because you boycotted the IPAC. Two, because you are in constant opposition to the EC's, current position regarding the voter registration exercise and a lot of other issues. So let me just simply start with you on this subject matter. EC to compile new voter register last week in June, even though there has been some vehement opposition from the NDC.
Yeah, true. Consistency is very important of a human being. You must be consistent. To be consistent, you must appreciate and identify what you stand for. Yes, I, together with the progressives in society, and particularly certain parties who have come together to call themselves the inter-party resistance against a new register, have stood against the compilation of a register for reasons that are not far-fetched. You can look at the reasons from a legal point of view. You can look at the reasons from a political point of view. And you can also look at the reasons from an economic point of view.
Okay.
So we have good reasons for resisting the register. But let me start by saying that we boycotted the IPAC meeting yesterday on solid grounds. KOD.
Yes, sir.
IPAC is a voluntary association of parties, political parties registered in Ghana. It has no basis in law. It is not created by law. It acts on the basis of convention. It builds consensus on how to safeguard the integrity of our electoral system. It's a welcome innovation that was brought into being by the venerable Afari Jan. Indeed, IPAC has turned out to be the solution in the past to great suspicion by political parties. Many of the reforms, electoral reforms, that has happened in Ghana have had their basis from IPAC discussions. Why did we boycott? So if this is so important, why did we boycott? We boycotted because IPAC is a voluntary association. It has developed some conventions all parties to an IPAC meeting agree that the Electoral Commission compiles the register and holds public elections and referenda. They do so by using IT. And so when you are attending an IPAC meeting, you must go along with an IT specialist.
Yes.
Electoral Commission works on the basis of law, the Constitution, and the law establishing the Electoral Commission, and all the constitutional instruments that they have promulgated. And so it is important that when you are attending an IPAC meeting, you go with a lawyer. Because it's a voluntary organization, you must also go with a person of a stature in a political party that can bind the political parties to the decisions that are taken at IPAC. Because it's voluntary. So if you send any Tom, Dick, and Harry to an IPAC meeting, and that person cannot even bind himself, like somebody said, me myself, I can't rely on myself. Like he can't bind himself to the decisions, you better not attend the IPAC meeting. So why did we boycott? From the narration I have given you, the least number of people to attend an IPAC meeting should be what? 3. If you are lucky to have a party chairman or a person who can bind the party, who is also a lawyer or an IT specialist, then probably you can say that he's 2 in 1, so you can have 2 people there. The Electoral Commission writes to the NDC, invited us to an IPAC meeting for yesterday, and says that we should bring
one person.
It flies in the face of the convention that we have developed.
Explained why. They explained why.
They explained. I'm coming to that.
Okay.
1 person. Number 2. And so we said, no. If you want to invite us, we have agreed to 3 people as a practice. If you want to invite us and you are thinking of the protocols or measures put in place, and you are thinking of social distancing, write to the presidency, the president,
okay,
to accept EC from the measures that have been put in place.
Okay, okay.
Because, in fact, the 25 even is not, it doesn't apply to EC by the decision in the Sam George and EC matter. The 25 does not even apply to EC. So we suggested that to them. They didn't mind us. We also said, you say you want to build consensus, and that is what IPAC does. Meanwhile, you have divided the meeting into 2, morning and afternoon. 2 groups of people, 1 group to meet in the morning, the other group to meet in the afternoon. Tell me how 2 groups meeting differently, constituted by representing different parties, can build consensus. Just tell me. So the outcome of what happened yesterday was predictable. They were just inviting the NDC and the other parties to come and tell them that they are going to compile the register in June. That's what they were trying to, were inviting us to do. Because we have said that if you want to build consensus on the way forward, invite us to one meeting. Everybody listens to the other. Then we'll arrive at a consensus. But if you divide it into 2, we fail to see how a consensus can be built by 2 groups of people meeting differently. Unless, of course, you are thinking of a 3rd group of 3rd meeting. Number 3, it is the NDC member of parliament, Sam George, who took the Electoral Commission to court. And the court explained that the 25 stipulated in the executive instrument is only for social occasions.
Yeah.
For burials. For burials. EC was not conducting a federal. And so they are not part of the 25. And so to say that because of the executive instrument and the measures put in place, you are limiting the number to 25 and you are inviting one. And then we as a party whose member took the EC to court, which court took opportunity to explain the requirement of 25 meeting for burials, we have a duty, in fact a responsibility, to obey the orders of the court. We will not directly or indirectly take decisions or do things that will undermine the order of the court. So we wrote back to the Electoral Commission saying that we are unable to be part of that meeting, and that if they really want to build a consensus, they should apply to the president for reliefs. They didn't. But EC, everybody in Ghana knows that EC is determined to do the bidding of the MPP. Everybody knows. Everybody knows that EC is determined to compile a new register for the purpose of re-electing the president. The register that we are compiling, that the EC wants to compile, is just for the purposes of re-electing the president. If not, as we speak, Richard, if there's a by-election in Parliament, which register are we going to use? The current register. Until the new register is compiled, and the new register will only be compiled because we want to use that to re-elect the president. That's the reason. That's the reason. And you know what? Just 2 days ago, Gabi Ochiridako gave us an insight into why they are compiling the register. He doesn't understand why K2 SAF has 140-something thousand people on the register. He thinks that there are ghosts on the register. He's forgotten that in the year 2000 elections, people took time to calculate the rate of voting, the speed of voting, the number of people who voted in the Manshia constituency. You have forgotten? And when they calculated it, the voting was less than a minute per person. In 2000, have you forgotten? When they calculated the total number of people who voted in Manshia divided by the votes that were cast in Manshia over the period of 12 hours or so, people spent less than 1 minute voting. Manshia is not recording that huge numbers because, or Bantuma, it has been that divided. Some new constituencies have been carved out of it. But you see the reasoning behind the compilation of the new register. Somehow, MPP have convinced themselves that there are people who are otherwise not entitled to be on the register who are on the register. And so they are prepared in the face of stiff opposition from reasonable people in society, from good thinking and responsible people, from civil society organizations, from the president's own lawyer, Akutapao, that they are bent, they will compile their register. When the vote that we have given for the Electoral Commission is 100 million, we have to go and borrow 100 million to find COVID-19. Electoral Commission says we will compile the electoral register. Why are they saying late June? They are saying late June because we know that they have already printed out the forms. We know. They are saying late June because the CI that was laid in Parliament will mature by the middle of June, latest, middle of June. So they are giving themselves one other week, so that by the End of June, they will start. But we have already launched opposition even to the CI, both in court and in parliament. In parliament, Honorable Muhammad Ayerega, the MP for Boko Central, has filed a motion to reject, for parliament to reject the CI on grounds that it has the potential to violate the fundamental rights of people in this country, of voters in this country. In court, we have filed, the NDC has filed a motion, a suit, inviting the Supreme Court in the exercise of their jurisdiction, both original jurisdiction, actually, to interpret the Constitution, to annul the CI. So for the NDC, yes, Electoral Commission says they are compiling, and we are opposed to the register. We will oppose the register until we see that the register is not compiled. Why? Let me come to the legal basis of the compilation of the register. And my brother Kosi Pratt, the other day when he spoke, I had to go back and look at my constitution. He's a CIDU lawyer. The Constitution makes it abundantly clear that the register, the Electoral Commission shall compile the register. T-H-E, the register. When "the" is used, it's a definite article. When "a" is used, it's an indefinite article. "The" means that it's known.
The Constitution.
The Constitution is known. In Arabic, we say "maruf." It's known. It's something which is clear. It's known. If this "a" is "gairu makruf," it's not known. The register shall compile the register. So the Electoral Commission is, or the Constitution makes it abundantly clear that we can only have the register, a known register to all persons in Ghana. Why? It's consistent with the rules of what? Transparency and democratic accountability. But we know that the register is a living document. It's a living organism. A register is like a community of persons. And like every community, members of the community will expire, will die. And they become wars. So the letter community, every Ghanaian who is of 18, it doesn't say that every Ghanaian who was, is present. The person who is a Ghanaian must be alive. So because the register is a register of community of persons who are entitled under Article 42 to exercise a right, some members of the community will do what? Will expire, will die. Because the community is a living community, it has, the way a community renews itself is through what? Birth. And so when people are born, they will come of age, 18, by the Constitution. And when they come of age, they are entitled, that's the word the Constitution uses, entitled to be put on the what? On the register. That is why the Constitution says there. So when you say, and then you see, why are we opposed? It doesn't make sense. It's fatally absurd. You are having a biometric register. Kennedy, do you know that in some jurisdictions they don't have a register?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have an ID card that is biometrically made, and that can be proven, it becomes your passport. It becomes your voter's ID card. So when you go and slot it in and put your finger, all your details will come out, and so you will vote. Those who are dead have no fingers, because we bury dead people with their fingers. So they can't vote. Dead people don't vote. They don't have franchise. So you can have a bloated register, technically, but it doesn't do anything. The only reason why the MPP is thinking of compiling the register, and they are thinking of compiling the register, because they have told us time and again that they said it when they were even in opposition. Never mind that they won the elections, that they said it when they were in opposition. So they are carrying through what they said. No matter the number of people on the register, only those who will present themselves at the polling station on the voting day will be entitled to vote. And they have to vote biometrically.
Yep.
So how can a bloated register be there? We could only argue of a bloated register under the 1992 register or under the 1996 register. Or is it a 2000 register? That's why we could argue that a register is bloated. But this is biometric. Number 3, does it make sense that a register that was used to elect the president, a register that was used to create regions, a register that was used to elect assemblymen, is not going to be used for the purpose of re-electing the president? Does it make sense? Politically, how will the president feel? I've always been praying for a day that I will meet the president. How will the president feel if he by himself, through the accident of history, got the commissioners of the Electoral Commission appointed by him? He by himself, through, I say accident of history because I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Because if the Chief Justice then had not ruled that a prima facie case had been made against Charlotte Sosai and his other group of electoral commissioners, they would not have been removed. So I say accident of history, even though it's debatable. Then you appoint the electoral commissioners, and the same electoral commissioners that you appointed are now compiling the register to elect you. Don't you see, when you wash my back, I wash your back. You don't see it? So I've always wondered, how would the president feel if it is said that the only reason why he appointed J. Mensah, Bosman, and others to the Electoral Commission was for them to ensure his re-election? How will he feel? It doesn't look like that. Doesn't it look like that? I thought that a president who wanted to demonstrate his popularity in the country would simply have said, yes, I have appointed the electoral commissioners, but let's use the system that was in place before they were appointed so that I can prove to you that I am as popular today as I was even before the appointment of the commissioners. I think that would have been fair. I think so. Leaders acting in the interest of the country must act in such a way as not to create doubt. The doubt is that all these things that we are experiencing now is towards ensuring that Nana Dodonka Akufo-Addo gets a second term in office. The most dangerous is that he is trying to get the second term in office by disenfranchising a lot of Ghanaians. That's what he's trying to do. So they have changed the citizenship laws of the country. They have made the national identity card, a certain norm for registering. The national ID card says that the National Identification Authority says that we'll use a birth certificate in getting people onto the register because we don't believe in the birth. They have changed almost everything, including the Electoral Commission decided not to even to use its own legal document, which is the voter ID card, for the purposes of registration. So that is why we are opposed, and we will continue to oppose the register.
Okay. So now that it is clear that the EC is still going ahead with the registration, what's your party going to do?
Well, there are many options.
Which options are?
Surprise is still an element of warfare.
Are you going to disrupt the registration?
Surprise is still an element of warfare. You don't plan your battles in the open.
Very well. Richard.
Thank you very much. I listened to my senior honorable Mr. arguments, and I largely disagree with him on the pointers, and I know that he cautiously drove the bus through an angle and left certain essential aspects of the argument aside without touching on it. What is the basis of all these things? This discussion has its roots on the Abu Ramadan Ibn Smith Mako case, where the Supreme Court held that those who find themselves on the register by the virtue of the usage of the National Health Insurance Card ought to be removed by the EC. And the EC, through their own admission, has said that they felt that they did not do a good work. And there are people who are still on the register. EC has said that publicly. Beyond that, there are people who use the health insurance card who still have their names on the register. And some of them are admitted openly. I heard Kingsley Hayford, you know him, he said it on City FM. It has been reported, and Alma Dusule and all those things. They were throwing accusations at each other, to the extent where Madame Charlotte said and also wrote in her petition, accusing Mr. Madusule of illegal vote transfers. What it means is that people who are not residing in, say, Ayawaso West, and they are transferred to my hometown, Brekum, purposely to help somebody who is supposed to be to win an election in that area. Somebody says, oh, but the person is a Ghanaian, the person ought to be on the register. Fair enough. But what happens to the situation changing the verdict of the person who goes to MP in that area? Because the person is not qualified to vote at that area. But because the person managed to get himself onto the register, the system is manipulated, though the person might not be coming from the place. I hope you get it. So those are some of the difficulties that we've come to know over the period. For me, the stance on the NDC on this voter register thing is something that all of us would want to look at and ask them, how come all of a sudden the NDC continuously question the conduct of the EC? Though there's most of the instances, you realize that what they are doing has no basis. I remember when the NDC was in power, we have the then General Secretary, Mr. Shedin Ketia. He said something. He said, if you do not believe if you believe that the EC has lost credibility, then you have a problem. It does appear that this same quotation can't pass for this moment. And it will go to explain why the NDC itself has a major difficulty that they need to look at and address. Because at every point in time, their stance had been to vilify the EC, to rain insult and insinuation on them, to discredit them at the least opportunity. There are moments that you say the EC is not listening. You are called for a meeting and you do not show up. You boycott these meetings. So at what moment will the EC get to hear your opinions? When you are not attending meetings. You are not coming for the meetings. Every time you are looking for one escape route, giving various reasons. I mean, when Honorable Ines Ofuseni was talking about the fact that NDC had invitation for one person coming for to come for the EC IPAC meeting, and they were expecting that it should have been 3 people. You ask yourself, was it not the same scenario for all the political parties? Because of the moment that we are living in, there are measures being put in place to make sure that at least that social distancing aspect of our life ought to be observed. So that has been the trend. That, I mean, we cannot continue to live in like we're living in normal times. So at various points, let's find ways of making sure that we observe those protocols. So what will be the best way forward? The ANC said that they want to hold the meeting at their premises. Based on that, and looking at the number of political parties, I mean, people think that there are only 4 or 5 political parties. But when you look at the bush, you are looking in excess of 24 political parties. And all of them get invitations to IPAC. So imagine everybody sending 3 individuals to that place. You multiply 3 by 24. You are looking at the numbers. It gives you an indication that there's no conference room at the EC that could hold such a meeting, looking at the numbers. It is practically impossible. So it makes sense for EC to say, based on the numbers that we anticipate, if you are allowing the regular system where we practice, where what people have come to be used to, where we invite everybody to come with 3 people, this is what is going to happen. Let's now come to the grounds where we have one person coming in. And when the person is coming, yeah, I mean, if we go to the NDC, Mr. Fosuampo, who is the chairman of the party, is a very seasoned politician. He understands these legal issues in terms of the EC. Not that he's a lawyer, but when you talk to Mr. Sidin Ketia, he's been there. He's conducted several elections, won some, lost some. So he understands all these things. If you send Mr. Sidin Ketia to the place, I'm not sure anybody is telling me that Mr. Sidin Ketia representing the NDC or Mr. Fosuampo representing the NDC at APAC will not be able to make their point forcefully. Nobody can tell me that. But the NDC decided not to show up. But all what they are saying is that they have difficulties with this. The same thing can be said about the Ghana card. Remember the initial stages, they had issues because they felt that people were not being allowed to use the voters card to register onto the Ghana card. Or people were not being allowed to solely use the birth certificate to get onto the Ghana card. So because of that, they made an announcement that their followers should not go and register. This is where the problem started. Then when the results started coming out in terms of the numbers of registration that they've conducted across the various regions, they realized that the numbers have dwindled considerably in certain parts of the country, and they are making it a problem of the National Identification Authority. What they've forgotten is that the Identification Authority have made enough rooms for people to get onto the card. They said even when you do not have any of the cards, if you don't have passport and you do not have other IDs that are mandated by law to help you get onto the system, you could just get people to vouch for your nationality. And that could be your parents, even friends. And they're looking in excess of 5 people, about 10 people to do that for you. So if you do not have members in your family, about 5 people, you don't need all the 5 people. You just need one of them. You can't get somebody within your family, a friend or somebody, to vouch that Mr. Kodi is a Ghanaian. So ought to be on the register and the person is ready to swear an oath to that. I mean, that means that the person is definitely not a Ghanaian. And those issues has been there. And like the Supreme Court said, make sure that it's only Ghanaians who get to vote. Those who are not Ghanaians who are on the register, delete their name from the system.
The Supreme Court never said that.
No, he said that.
No.
He said that.
The Supreme Court never said there are non-Ghanaians on the register.
No, the Supreme Court talked about the Ghana card. No, I know, but it's the same thing.
Said,
the understanding is you allowed me.
Listen.
Allowed you. You allowed me. No, you can make a point.
So I'll let you correct that.
The effect of that is the same.
No, it's not the same.
You don't worry. You see, when the Supreme Court says that those who use the National Health Insurance card to register, based on that card, the card do not show your Ghanaianness. The card, there's nothing on it that indicates that you're a Ghanaian. Mm-hmm. So there are people who are not Ghanaians who could get onto the register by virtue of owning that health insurance card. Mm-hmm. So those who got onto that using that card, most of them might not be Ghanaians. So make sure that those who got onto the card are deleted.
No.
But that's the reason.
No.
I hope you're getting me. And the people were not removed. The EC themselves admitted that they do not do a clean work on that. So the difficulty is making sure that we get a clean register. I mean, this idea of making sure that people do not get onto the card to register. I mean, how would anybody know that somebody would vote for MPP or vote for NDC by looking at their face? How can you tell? You can't tell. So you need a good number of Ghanaians who are ready to register, to go out there and get themselves onto the register. Because it's only when the person's name is found on the register, that's when they vote. It's possible that there are people who are MPP who would vote against Akufo-Addo in the next election. It is possible that there are NDC executives who will vote against President Mahama in the next elections. There are people who will be peers of MPs who might vote against the MP in the next election. Even their wives, it's possible they will vote against them. So there's no way you could tell who is going to vote for who, looking at their faces. So there's no need for anybody to put in measures in place that will prevent anybody to get onto the register. So that thinking of the NDC, that seems to suggest that there is measures in place to prevent people from getting onto the card. For me, as a Ghanaian, I think that it is far-fetched. There's nothing like that. And if you want to do a good job, what we ought to do is that make sure that at least those who are qualified to be on the register get onto the register. And that's the most important thing. And if the period comes and people are asked to come and register, I do believe that if you're a Ghanaian and you are interested in it, you have to go out there and go and register. I sit here, I do not have the Ghana card. Because during the period that they got to my area, I was not in the country. So I could not get onto it. So when they start again or they open the system, I'll go and do it. But beyond that, I have a passport. I know there are people, I have friends who do not have passports and I do not have the Ghana card. But they're also making arrangements to go and get them people to vote for them to get onto the system. So these are the things that we need to do. What we are doing is something progressive. So let's support it. We ought not to make everything look like it's a do and die affair. And I'm hearing all kinds of comments. And we continuously hear this from politicians. I mean, people thinking that for elections, this country ought to perish. Those things ought to be thrown away because it doesn't help us. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is the human beings. We are going to win elections to govern the people, not to just rule a bare land. So if you are only thinking of because somebody, and this thinking of the EC having a part with the MPP to rig the next elections, I mean, how possible could that be? That you go to a polling station, you cast your vote, and it's counted. How do you rig that? So all what you need to do is, and I know the NDC on air are preaching that they are against everything, but they are busily preparing. They are preparing across the country. When you talk to their constituency executives, when you talk to their regional executives, they are preparing for the register every single day. But on air, they create the impression that they are not interested in the elections, they are not interested in everything. That if you are a political party and you are sitting there, you will not focus on the fact that you also have to put your act together and train your people. They are asking for training manuals for the EC. What are they going to use the training manuals for? And beyond that, if for anything at all, even the EC should come up and say that they are not going to do a full-scale registration exercise, there ought to be a moment where about 1.5 million Ghanaians will be given opportunity to register, though most of whom were not 18 years during the last elections. None have attained 18 years. And others who are not even available and now available within the jurisdiction and they are ready to vote. All those people will be given the opportunity to do so. So we need to understand that no matter what the case will be, the last elections register will not be the same register that we're going to go into the election. So there will be a new register. And obviously, the next elections will be kicked in with a new CI. Meaning that everything that comes with that new CI is going to be new and it's going to be far from what was used in the previous elections. So we need to prepare our minds and go and get ourselves registered. That is the most important thing. The small argument here and there, I think doesn't help. And the desire to raise the political tension in the country is not helping any of us. It's not helping the NDC, it's not helping the MPP. Because this has been the cycle. When you're in opposition, you try to create all kinds of tension. Then when you get into power, then, I mean, all these things are not necessary. Let's focus. Let's get this thing done. If you're NDC, get your people to register. If they do not register, they can't vote. So get them to register if you can identify them. And the mere fact that you're even getting somebody to be registered doesn't mean a person vote for you. I've seen elections where people arrange for people with buses and gotten them to register, and the time that they were counting the vote, the person did not even get half full of the bus. But it took about 4 or 5 buses to an area for people to go and have their names onto the register. And practically all of them went to register. These things would happen. So let's just put our act together and go out there and get ourselves registered.
Thank you very much, Richard Asante. Mr. Pratt. Honorable, I'll come to you for that clarification.
Very well.
Mr. Pratt.
Well, I mean, look, to sum everything up, I am fully convinced that the path the Electoral Commission has taken is reckless in the extreme. And that this Electoral Commission, if it's not restrained, will push this country beyond the precipice. I'm really frightened by what is happening. Look, Daily Graphic, on its front page today, carries a report under the heading, Voter Registration Begins June. 33,367 centers for the exercise. Yeah. Now, paragraph 3 of the story says, yesterday, the EC gave meaning to its resolute stance on the registration exercise when it met political parties and other stakeholders to put forward their plans before them. Are you not frightened by this? The EC should not have a resolute stand, an unbending stand. Why should the EC have an unbending stand? The IPAC was set up with wise counsel to ensure that the Electoral Commission did its work on the basis of consensus, not resolute stand. You understand? The Electoral Commission has to do what the people of Ghana want. So consensus building is an essential element in the work of the EC. Now we are told that there's a resolute stand, an unbending stand. Who gave them the right to be unbending? What is the justification for them being unbending? Resolute stance. It shocks me to the marrow. And I'm very deeply worried by this so-called resolute stance of the Electoral Commission. It is arrogant. It's an affront to the Constitution. It's an affront to the sovereignty of the people of Ghana. The EC cannot have a resolute stand, and it must be stopped from pushing its resolute stand on the people of Ghana. It's annoying in the extreme. Resolute stand. What does that mean? Put that aside. Well, I'd like to welcome my brother and friend Richard Asante to the show today. We've missed him a great deal. I'm happy that he's here. Listen, Richard talks about the confession of somebody who claims to have voted, to have registered to vote using a national health insurance card. That confession is absolutely useless. We should throw it away. You know why? Because this person is a Ghanaian entitled to vote. If you are taking the confession of a non-Ghanaian not entitled to vote, who had used the national health insurance card, then we'll be getting somewhere. But the guy is entitled to vote and he voted, so what? You understand? So we should put that aside completely. The question of illegal vote transfer. How does it validate or invalidate a register? Illegal vote transfer can occur when the register is credible. It can also occur when the register is not credible. So illegal vote transfers would not under any circumstance invalidate the voters register, make the voters register incredible. It wouldn't. So you put that also aside. Then there's the whole argument which is built on what the NDC said when they were in power. Great. What about what the MPP said when they were in opposition? Why should we just focus attention on what the NDC said when they were in power and ignore what the MPP said when they were in opposition? If all of us would remember, the NPP actually issued a statement saying that even though the president has power to appoint the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, the law does that, grants the president the power. The president should not exercise his lawful power and should go for broad consensus. Yeah. Because achieving consensus, as far as the NPP was concerned in opposition, was vital for ensuring that we have elections peacefully, without rancor, and so on. What are they saying today? Today, the NPP is saying exactly what the NDC said in power. If you don't agree, go to court. Why? The EC has the powers conferred on it by law. Therefore, respect the law, and so on. They are saying exactly what the NDC said in power. In fact, if the NPP were to be consistent, still saying and believing what they said in opposition, we don't have any problem at all. So there's a flip side to everything, and I think it's important to bring it up and so on. Now, this morning I've read from one of the papers something very interesting about the IPAC meeting which was held yesterday. I think it is Elvis Efriye Ankra who is actually alleging that the invitation the NBC got was for an IPAC meeting at 10 p.m. That needs to be verified. You understand?
I think that is also true with NPP and other political parties.
Oh, but it's interesting that they were invited to a meeting at 10 p.m.
And I understand they sent an email to correct it with all the political parties.
But Master, are you not amazed at this level of crass incompetence by the EC? Are you not amazed? I mean, the EC can't even get the time right for its own meeting, such a crucial meeting. You are having a meeting at 10 a.m., and you send letters to political parties inviting them for the meeting at 10 p.m.
And the date was 2010, I think, if you check the dates.
And they got the date also wrong.
Yeah.
This is an electoral commission which is touting its competence and so on. And yet it displays this crass incompetence. Even proofreading they can't do. Common proofreading they can't do. What is this? Crass incompetence. Now, if it is demonstrating this crass incompetence, how are we sure that 5 months to an election, they can compile a voters register? Even letter of invitation, they cannot get it right. Letter of invitation. 1 page, 2-paragraph letter of invitation, they cannot get it right. How can they get a whole compilation of a voters register right?
19th May 2010.
I mean, it's mind-boggling. It's amazing. You know, and then, Master, the other thing. You see, when we are making arguments in public, I think we should make the arguments, you know, with the assumption that the people we are talking to also have a small capacity to reason. Because if we assume that we are talking to fools, sometimes it can create problems. And I'm being very mild. You know, I'm being deliberately very mild. The EC says, and some of his supporters say, that you have more than 20 political parties, okay? And that there is no room in the EC which can house 3 representatives of each political party. And therefore, he decided to hold the meeting in thoughts.
So you want to organize an election?
My head is aching.
I wrote it here.
My head is aching with this crass. I won't use the word. Because if I use the word, there will be problems. What says that the EC must hold all its meetings in its offices? What forces the EC to hold all of its meetings in its offices? The EC cannot hold its meeting in the conference center. What prevents the EC from holding its meeting in the conference center? Or holding its meeting in the National Theatre? Or even holding its meetings in the Accra Sports Stadium? There's nothing that prevents the EC from holding its meetings outside its offices. That's a lame excuse. And it's a lame excuse to suggest that the EC has no respect for us. And we should be angry. All of them sitting there. They are exercising our powers. The EC is acting on our behalf. And when it behaves as if we don't have sense, as if we are idiots and so on, we should be angry at this electoral commission. I am very angry. Massa, I think it's important in this discussion to revisit the 1992 situation. Okay? And I want to visit the 1992 situation because I was an active participant in the things that happened in 1992. Do you know that in 1992, presidential and parliamentary elections were not held on the same day? In 1992, we held presidential elections first, and they were to be followed by parliamentary elections. Do you know that the opposition boycotted the parliamentary elections? And do you know the reasons the opposition gave for boycotting parliamentary elections? So, for the first session of parliament, opposition was not represented in parliament at all. It was a one-sided parliament. And I urge all those who want to get into the 1992 situation to go and read the Stolen Verdict. Yeah? Stolen Verdict, the book which was written by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and some members of the New Patriotic Party. It provides all the answers. Stolen Verdict, an MPP book will provide all the answers. You know, in 1992, all the members of the Electoral Commission had been appointed by the Rawlings regime. The law says that Mr. Rawlings had powers to appoint them. The same law which Nana Akufo-Addo has used to appoint members of the commission was the same law which was used by Mr. Rawlings to appoint them. The opposition's position at the time, and I was part of it, was that because all the members of the Electoral Commission were appointed by the then government, the Electoral Commission could not be credible. Yeah. Have we forgotten?
They've forgotten.
You understand? Leading to the rejection of election results and indeed the boycott of the second election and leading to the altering of the Stolen Verdict. This is 1992. I remember very carefully. Now, why do I say we should go back to the 1992 situation? I say we should go back to the 1992 situation because by December 7th this year, all commissioners will be appointed by the sitting president. The same situation as 1992. What is worse, right now as we sit here, 11 of the Supreme Court judges have been appointed by the sitting president. Now, I'm not arguing that is unlawful. That's not my argument. It is very lawful. The president has powers to do that and so on. But it does create a certain problem which we have to take into account. And if you're going to take that situation into account, then you ought to be mindful to build consensus as a means of overcoming that. Look, I want to argue for this purpose that the MPP is innocent. The executive is innocent. They were not involved in the machinations leading to the removal of Charlotte Osei and other commissioners. And I'm using this for argument. You understand? I want to believe that that is the situation. I want to accept that for the purpose of this discussion. Only for the purpose of this discussion. Because there were things which happened which were exceedingly worrying. Dead people writing petitions to the president and so on. All those things we can discuss. But I'm not going to go there. Let us assume that they were right. So, a void has been created which has to be filled. The president has the legal authority to fill that void. But it has consequences. You understand? Because I've heard leading members of the New Patriotic Party say that we cannot expect the president to be appointing his enemies to fill public positions. Flowing from that, it means that the president will only appoint his friends to fill public positions.
That is overstretching the argument.
How am I overstretching the argument?
That's somebody's opinion. That's somebody
who speaks on behalf of your party says that the president should not be expected to be filling vacant positions with his enemies. And of course, it would be surprising if the president deliberately went out to fill vacant positions with his enemies. I don't see any president anywhere in the world who would deliberately set out to fill vacant positions with his enemies. So he fills vacant positions with his friends.
But it doesn't mean that if you are not the enemy, you are the friend.
Pardon?
You could be appointed to be in a position. You might not necessarily be a friend of the president, and you are not the enemy too. You are somebody just competent to do the job.
The context within which the enemy was used is clear. It was a context in which the opposition was criticizing the president for relying on friends and family and so on. And the reaction was that, hey, that is perfectly correct. And that he will not fill the positions with his enemies. So, by inference, this advocate was talking about filling vacant public positions with friends. I have no problem with it because I've said that I do not expect presidents to put their enemies in positions anywhere in the world. But then it has consequences, and we have to deal with those consequences. And how to deal with those consequences is that when it comes to public elections and so on, we need to build, consensus. We need to build consensus. The president is not responsible for the retirement and dismissal and so on of all the commissioners. But it has happened in his time. How does he handle it such that the process is credible and that we can all move forward to an election knowing that there will be fairness? The manner in which this exercise is being conducted does not help us, does not give us confidence, does not show that we can expect some measure of neutrality. It does not show that we can rely on this electoral commission to do a good job. Now, one of the reasons why we cannot rely on this electoral commission to do a good job has to do with statements being made by commissioners. You have a commissioner who says on public radio, not in private, that one political party should be watched because they could destroy the democratic dispensation. Now, if you are sitting in the Electoral Commission, you believe that there's a political party in Ghana, which is a problem for democracy, won't you make sure that that political party does not come anywhere near power? And this is a statement made by a commissioner. Are we not afraid? Are we not alarmed? Are we not worried by this level of extreme recklessness by a commissioner? I wonder. Now, listen, my brother. I can give you quotes, and I'm sure Richard has some of those quotes, from sitting members of the Electoral Commission, current sitting members of the Electoral Commission, about how credible the voters register is only 6 months ago. Simple. Before the district level elections, I read him in the Daily Graphic saying that the voters register is credible, that we can use it for elections. There's no problem with it. What changed in 6 months? What has changed in 6 months? Why are they talking at both sides of their mouth? Today this, tomorrow that. Today that, tomorrow this. What is wrong with them? The voters register is credible or is not credible. It cannot be credible today and discredited tomorrow morning. So something is fundamentally wrong. You understand? Now, I believe that all three of us as panelists are familiar with elections in Ghana and election results. And I dare any one of us here this morning to say that all our elections have been clean. Master, the true state of elections in Ghana must be worrying. Every election since 1992, and I mean every election since 1992, go and check the results. If you like, don't go and do the checking yourself. Go and buy Ben Epstein's book and read. You would find some polling stations, some constituencies, in which the number of votes cast is more than the number of registered voters. If you want to challenge me, do that.
It came up even in the election petition.
Every election result since 1992. So if you have a situation where even in one polling station, the number of registered voters is less than actual votes cast, it raises questions. And it makes people suspicious. Now, if you have this state of elections in Ghana, then you are bound to worry. You understand? The worry is deepened when it becomes clear that leading members of the ruling party are actually targeting some particular constituencies. We are now told that K2 South is a problem. That the people who vote there, they are ghosts. If they are not ghosts, then they are coming from Togo and so on. Is that the reason why we have to...
I'm not sure somebody has been that explicit the way you are putting it. It's just about somebody asking questions and wanting answers.
That same person was not able to raise questions about Bantama.
I mean, but NDC people have raised it several times. So when people are raising, why do you repeat the same question? Honorable sat and raised questions.
Richard, I'll give us second round. So yeah,
Richard, so does it make it right? It doesn't. And then, Massa, the mother of all absurdities. There are so many absurdities. But in this exercise, the mother of all absurdities is this. We are told that if you have a Ghanaian passport, you can go and register and be on the new voters register. That's what they are telling us. How do you get a Ghanaian passport? You cannot get a Ghanaian passport without providing a birth certificate. The birth certificate, it's the only authentic way of establishing your citizenship so that you can earn a passport. Strangely, you can register with a passport, but you cannot register with a birth certificate, which enables you to get a passport. Hey, Masa, common sense, why they? I mean, this whole debate is proving that common sense, after all, is true that it is not that common. And that big people, professors and so on, sometimes they can also have problems with getting small common sense. You can use a passport, but the document you use to acquire the passport is a useless document which you cannot use. Look, I was on Alhaji and Alhaji last weekend. And Alhaji A.B.A. Fuseni told us a story. He went to a village in his constituency. In that village, the whole village, nobody has a passport, nobody has a birth certificate, including the chief. And the chief asked A.B.A. Fuseni that so people will come here to register and they will say that me, the chief, I don't come from this village and therefore I cannot register. And that somebody from another village should use his passport to come and say that me, I'm the chief of the village. And you know what the chief said?
No.
That we are here. We will see how they will come and register people and go back. So this is not a problem of the NDC. This chief, for all you know, is an NPP chief. You understand? I don't know his political... It's a problem of citizens wanting to exercise their rights as citizens. It has nothing to do with NPP. It has nothing to do with NDC. It has to do with a deliberate attempt to deny citizens their right to exercise, their will, their sovereign will, and so on. That is the problem. Who says that all the people who are going to be disenfranchised in K2 South will be NDC people? They may not. I don't see any mechanism which can be used to make sure that only NPP people or NDC people are disenfranchised. You understand? The problem, however, is that voter suppression, no matter how it's done, can be targeted at political parties. Yeah. Because if NDC is winning 80% or 90% in K2 South, and 10% of the population is denied a vote, NDC will suffer more than NPP. That's just common sense. Yeah. That's just common sense. You understand?
I think we are vocals.
Now listen. A decision has been made to use the NIA card and birth certificate. No, and passport. Those making the decisions know that the vast majority of Ghanaians do not have those documents.
They know.
They know. It's not that they don't know. They know. In my house, there are how many of us? 2, 3, about 7 of us in my house. All of us, when this NIA card thing came up, went and registered. Me, I was prevented because that time my passport was somewhere looking for a visa and so on. But I got the passport and did it subsequently. Of all the people in the house who went and registered, I'm the only person who has a card. No fault of theirs. They didn't boycott the exercise. They went and registered. They don't have the cards as we speak. 6 months later. And then, you know, the most shocking thing, yesterday and today, I've read from the newspapers that the MPP General Secretary is actually saying that the party will resist any attempt by the NIA to organize a mop-up exercise to enable those who qualify to register as Ghanaians to register. Hey, where is that coming from?
I've not heard that.
Oh, I think it's even in today's papers. I'll look for it for you. That the party will resist any attempt of the NIA to organize a mop-up exercise. So what are you telling us? Because people are qualified to be registered. They have not been registered through no fault of theirs. What about people in the eastern region?
Because even our strongholds have not been taken care of.
What about people in the eastern region where the exercise was stopped as a result of COVID-19?
And that's MPP stronghold.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that that's your stronghold.
Well, it is one of the strongholds.
No, I'm not. Because I've watched election results before. And there have been times when the difference is 2%. Yeah. That's not a stronghold.
I mean, but we still win.
You understand? The fact that you win doesn't make it your stronghold.
We've been winning that over the years, so
it doesn't make it your stronghold.
We are widening the gap with time.
2% gap.
That's like in the past,
4% gap and so on is not strong.
Now it's not like that. Now we are winning and we continue to.
Okay. I will not dispute that. I will not.
I'll come to you. I
will not dispute your optimism about widening the gap in the eastern region. I wouldn't. Based on what I know and so on, I wouldn't dispute that. Yeah. You understand, Richard? I wouldn't. But the point is that why would the party insist that you should have the ID card, the national ID card and the passport as the base document and resist the attempt to carry out a mop-up exercise? I don't know what that means. You understand? So that's a huge problem. Now, the killer, for me, the killer. Richard, listen to me very carefully. I listened to Mr. Peter McMahon. And Mr. Peter McMahon is the chairman of the campaign committee of the New Patriotic Party in this election. And Mr. Peter McMahon says clearly, clear words, that whether the old register is used or a new register is compiled, it doesn't matter to the New Patriotic Party. And that the New Patriotic Party can win clean and fair elections with any of the registers, new or old.
That is true.
Oh, you agree with him?
Oh, but we've done that.
Oh, fantastic.
In order to million votes.
No problem.
Last election.
Master, fantastic. So if you agree with him, why are we wasting money compiling a new register?
I mean,
if we can organize credible, free and fair elections with the old register, why are you wasting our time, wasting our years, wasting our money on the compilation of a new register? And this is from Mr. Peter McMahon. He said it, not me. That you can organize free, fair, transparent elections with the old register. Yeah. In any case, there's another point. Listen. All of us, including all of us on this table, we have argued that it doesn't make sense for Ghana to have one card for election, one card for national health insurance, one card for social security, one card for driver's license, and so on.
That's true.
And that all of these cards can be consolidated in one. When are we going to do that? Can't we start now? Why are we still doing NIA card different, social security card different, driver's license different, every card different, when we can do one? And all of us also know that the national coffers are not healthy at all. So common sense should teach us that we should do the things that are less expensive. You understand? And yet, we are doing this multiplicity of cards. It doesn't make sense. It is foolish, and we are doing it. And we all know that it is foolish, it doesn't make sense, and we are doing it. Incredible. Boss, it is incredible. You know that it is incredible. What we are doing is wrong. We all, the electoral commissioner, must have come to the conclusion that it will do a new voters register at some point, which would imply that we are going to throw the old register away. We will throw it away. We will never use it again. Huh? We're going to throw it away because it is banza. We're going to throw it away. Common sense and prudence would dictate that you don't repair something you're going to throw away. So what was the need to update that register when we knew that we were going to throw it away eventually? Why didn't we start the compilation of the new voters register to enable us to use it for all the elections and so on? Why did we have to repair something, some bogus something that we are going to throw away and throw it away? Who is going to pay for the cost of repairs and so on? I've seen some arguments in the papers today. If I don't take time, I'll take all the time.
Yeah.
about the legality of the exercise. This is an illegal exercise. The matter is before the Supreme Court, and I don't want to comment too much on it. But it's interesting that when the legality of the exercise is being challenged in the Supreme Court, the EC can come and tell us that no matter what decision the Supreme Court takes, we are going ahead.
I'm not sure the EC has said that, Uncle.
Under normal circumstances, shouldn't they wait?
No, but that's a reportage. You see, the point
forget about reportage.
Where you read that the EC said they
have announced
an entrenched position.
Wait a minute.
It was somebody's reportage.
They have announced a date. They are going ahead. When the legality of the exercise is being challenged in the Supreme Court.
But even yesterday, I heard Mr.
This is contemptuous of the Supreme Court.
Said on City TV with a program with Mr. Sirinketia that whatever decision that the EC, the Supreme Court comes with is what they are going with.
Why can't they wait?
But they are still having their plans and programs in place.
Massa, Richard,
and they have not gone ahead with
in
anticipation of
the
when they believe. Well, remember they have stance.
Anyway.
They have stance, believe that what they are doing is right. So if the Supreme Court rules otherwise, they will go. But you see, before even
you know
what Madam Charles was saying, was making effort to change.
I'll give you. We still have a few minutes. I'll make sure I share it vividly.
I'm waiting patiently.
I know.
I've not been here for long, so I'm
we shall allow you
to all those times.
How can we do that? A matter before Supreme Court. The matter has not been determined, and we are still going ahead and rubbing it in our faces and telling us that we can go to hell. What they are saying simply is that we can go to hell. Okay, we will go to hell. If they want us to go to hell, we will go to hell. But what they are doing, what does it amount to?
They have stance, and the Constitution gives them that opportunity.
Mr. President, are you done?
Based on the law.
I was going to say something, but I can say it later.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Minister of Zeni.
Well, Mr. Kozepra.
It appears we're going to only stay on this topic.
Mr. Kozepra,
the time is
don't
far.
be surprised if the EC treats the Supreme Court with contempt.
They have treated the Supreme Court with contempt, and they are getting away with it.
In the Abu Ramadan case, this is what Lojina Wood said. The old voter card is the best prima facie evidence of an applicant's eligibility to acquire a new voter ID card.
Oh, you are?
Abu Ramadan. They say they don't need it. But let me, please, let me.
Wait, I also come to you. Yeah.
Let me set the record straight. Abu Ramadan did not decide on foreigners on the register. Abu Ramadan decided on primary documents.
That's true.
And insofar as people had used the NHIA card as primary documents to get onto the register, the primary document was wrong.
Yes.
And so those people be deleted and given another opportunity. You didn't add it to get onto the register. Because of why? Because why? They are Ghanaians. Article 42. Okay. They must be given, they are entitled to be on the register. The electoral college, you know, that's Abu Ramadan number 1.
Okay.
That's Abu Ramadan number 1. Abu Ramadan number 2 challenged the basis of the removal. And then the Supreme Court directed the EC to use its internal processes to identify, because all the private documents that they filled were with the EC. The EC identified 560,000 people on the register and deleted their names and went back to court and reported on that and said that when they deleted their names, they gave the people an opportunity to come back and register. And only 290 came and registered. Or is it 56,000? Not 560, 56,000. And only 29,000 people came and registered. What is your problem? So those who didn't register, their names are what? Deleted.
So that's where the problem is.
Wait.
I'll give you
I'll come in.
full time.
So it is not true that there are foreigners on the register. It's not true. Number 2, Mr. Kosiprat has said it. How can you use voter transfer as a basis to impugn the register? Richard, how can you do that? Richard, if you are in Accra here, no, if you are in Accra here, if you are in Accra here, and you decide that you have been transferred to Tamale, you are a voter in Accra, you are a voter in Ghana. Tamale, Accra, part of Ghana.
For the presidential, there's no problem.
Good. I'm saying that Tamale Accra is part of Ghana. So when they transfer your name to Tamale, even if it is illegal, it doesn't operate to remove your name from the register. You get it? You are still a voter. So if the transfer is declared illegal, what it means is that you have to go back
to Accra to vote.
To vote. That's what it means. Now, you see, when you are citing examples, you don't know that the examples you cite strengthen the cases. That Kingsley, or what was his name that you mentioned?
Kingsley Hayford.
Kingsley Hayford. Kingsley Hayford is a Ghanaian. It's a Ghanaian.
This guy, what is his name? This guy who used to work with Ben Epson. Oh, okay.
It's a Ghanaian. Nobody said that Kingsley Hayford is not a Ghanaian.
It's a Kingsley Hayford.
A Kingsley Hayford. No, a Kingsley, not Kingsley. Kingsley Hayford. No one has ever said that to. And so, if Kingsley Hayford is still holding his voter ID card that he used the NHIS to register,
to
procure, that card is not invalid.
But see, if they are supposed
that
to
card is not invalid,
then his name should have been removed from the first place.
That card
opportunity that was afforded
should not be giving you that example. It means that he has not been a dutiful citizen of this country.
In fact, it's stressing the point that people who use the national health card were qualified to be on
the You see, so finally,
I promise I'll come to you. There's 5 minutes. Final. Okay.
NHIA. You see, when you look at the configuration of things. NHIS is compiling a citizens register. A citizens register. That is why I'm so worried about Kenatefa.
We don't know. NIA.
Yes, it's compiling a citizens register.
Yeah.
That's what it is compiling. And so every opportunity must be given to people to establish their citizenship and be on the register. And Kenatefa tells us that he was a human rights commissioner in Canada. Kenatefa tells us that he was an investigator at Shiraj. Kenatefa tells us that he was the dean of the faculty of law at Zanif University. But Kenatefa refuses to understand that his duty in compiling the citizens register is not for the purposes of elections, but for the purposes of compiling a register for posterity. He refuses to understand. And what he is doing by constricting the number or documents for people to establish their citizenship to get onto the register is, by virtue of that, removing a lot of people from the register, because he's been motivated to do that because of the political gains that a political party will secure. I'm sad for Kenatefa. In fact, he would have come out as a statesman if he had done this exercise, because nations develop by knowing their true state of affairs, their citizenship. And that was what he was given. But he's changed it into a political activity.
Richard.
Thank you very much. I disagree with Honorable Nisa on this point of Mr. Kenatefa constricting the process. Health insurance card became a subject of discussion. It became a subject of discussion because of the fact that during the compilation of the National Health Insurance Card, or even when you look at the card by...
You see, I don't want to interrupt you, but let me say that I have a fundamental difficulty with the Supreme Court decision. Because the CI 91 talks about a national identity card for the purposes of establishing identification, not citizenship. Go and read CI 91.
Now I'm talking about a health insurance card.
Yes, so it's a card that establishes you.
No, but that one was for health reasons. No. On that card, was not whether you are Ghanaian or you are not Ghanaian.
The card is not for
Ghanaian. Number of course.
The card is not for that. Even your voter ID card is not, doesn't establish you as a Ghanaian. It's a prima facie.
I'll give you the Richie, please take your subject.
Let's allow Richie to also make this point because we are out of time.
So you realize that in that compilation, there are a lot of people who are not Ghanaians who got onto that, who owned health insurance cards because of their health reasons. And they did not do that because they wanted to go and vote. But the moment people realized that you could use that one to register, they also marched to polling stations and got themselves registered. That is why when the Supreme Court looked at the issue, said, you know what, based on what has happened, let's delete these people from the register. Give them opportunity. Because you assume that there are some of them who are Ghanaians and others will not be Ghanaians.
The national ID card,
those who are Ghanaians, those who are Ghanaians, health insurance card.
National ID card, they issue to foreigners.
I'm not talking about national ID.
Even the
you see, in the scheme of things, you are admitting that there are people who are passing on to cards through fraudulent means. You're even getting people who are holding passports who are not Ghanaians.
Yeah?
Yes. You've seen that. So when there's a basis to strengthen the process, when there's a basis to strengthen the process, when there's a basis to prevent people who are not Ghanaian to get onto some of these. So that's why you don't throw away the EC.
Okay.
Let's support the EC.
That's why you don't throw away what you have built over the years.
NEC, they are prepared, like I said earlier on. Don't look at what they are doing on air and think that the NDC is not interested in the next election. They are preparing grocery every day, every night. They are working around the clock. They are preparing. But they go to the various platforms and create the impression that they are not interested in the next election. And they are not supporting the EC. They are fighting the EC. For me, what I know is that regardless of the register that is used. And we are ready to support the EC with whatever decision they come with. Whatever comes out, if they say tomorrow we are going to the next elections with the elections, the register with the new individuals being added to it because we are at 10-18, we are okay with it. We go and vote. When they say that we are going with a new register, we will go and contest and make sure that we win the next election. That's what we are interested in.
Thank you, Richard.
For us, we are looking at our achievements.
Okay.
We'll throw our achievements out there. We'll let Ghanaians know what we've done at the various sectors of the economy. Okay. And based on that, win the next election.
Okay. Mr. Pratt, conclude for us.
Master, time
Your
is
time.
fast.
All right. Yeah, I wish I could read messages, but the conversation has been...
Richard,
Has answered the question. I cannot thank you enough, Richard Asante, for your time. I hope this is going to be fantastic. Thank you, Richard.
industry, you'll be here all the
time. All right, thank you. And Honorable Minister Museni, we're grateful for your time today. Mr. Pratt, thank you very much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Apologies to you for not being able to read your messages. I'm sure you understand why. We needed to really delve deeper into this matter. Tomorrow, I'll try to read a lot of your messages here on the morning show. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a nice day. Stay safe. Be safe. Bye-bye.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great song, Sergeant Dr. Nkrumah.
Hello.